The desert world was silent. Its sun hung weak in the sky, dim and red, giving little warmth to the endless fields of sand. The surface stretched far in every direction, broken only by dunes that rose and fell like waves in a frozen ocean. The ground glittered as if made of glass. Each step crunched beneath boots, the sound sharp and lonely in the dry air. The exploration ship, Horizon, had landed only 2 hours ago. Its silver hull looked out of place against the golden desert. 6 crew members walked together toward a strange signal that had drawn them here from many light years away. Their leader, a woman named Mira, kept her eyes fixed on the device in her hand. The scanner pulsed with a faint rhythm like a heartbeat coming from deep under the sand. "Still there," Mira said quietly. Her voice carried through the open comms. "Energy levels are weak but steady. Whatever it has been running for a long time." Arin, the youngest of the crew, could not take his eyes off the horizon. The sky shimmered as heat bent the light, though the air itself was cold. He had read about planets like this in history texts, worlds where great cities once stood before time and disaster swallowed them. He whispered almost to himself, "This place feels older than anything we should be walking on." Behind him, Jalen, the engineer, gave a small laugh. "Every rock feels older than us. Keep moving. The faster we dig this thing out, the sooner we can know if it's worth the trip." They moved forward together. Each carried equipment strapped to their backs, and each step left small clouds of dust rising and falling again in the stillness. The silence of the desert pressed around them until even breathing felt too loud. After another half hour of walking, the scanner in Mira's hand spiked. The crew stopped. Before them, the ground dipped into a shallow valley where the sand glittered brighter, as if light was trapped beneath its surface. "Here," Mira said. She knelt and brushed the sand with her gloved hands. The grain slid away like water, revealing a hard surface underneath. It shone faintly, smooth and cold. "This is not stone." Aaron dropped beside her and touched the surface. A chill passed through his gloves. It was not metal either. It was something in between, a clear surface with light trapped inside it. The light shifted slowly like a frozen river that still remembered how to flow. Jalen crouched close, his eyes wide. "This is not natural. Someone built this, and it's still alive with power." They set up their tools. Machines began to dig, pulling away the top layers of sand. Slowly, more of the structure was revealed. A wall stretched outward, smooth and shining, its surface covered in strange lines that looked like both writing and decoration. The deeper they dug, the larger it grew until they realized they were standing on the roof of something vast. "It's a tomb," Mira said at last. Her voice was calm, but her eyes held a spark of awe. Or maybe a palace. Whatever it is, it was meant to last forever. Hours passed. The sun sank lower, painting the desert in red shadows. The ship's floodlights cut through the darkness as they cleared away more sand. At last, a doorway revealed itself. It was tall and narrow, sealed by a single slab of crystal that glowed from within. The crew stood before it in silence. The doorway looked like the mouth of a giant waiting to open and swallow them whole. Aaron felt his chest tighten. He looked at the glowing door and whispered, "How long do you think it's been waiting?" "Longer than we can imagine," Mira answered. She reached out and placed her hand on the door. The crystal pulsed faintly under her touch, sending a soft wave of light through the surface. "It knows we are here." The door did not open. The crew gathered their tools again, searching for a way inside. Jalen set up a scanner against the surface, reading the energy patterns within. "It's not locked," he said after some time. "It's listening, but it does not understand us." Aaron stepped forward again. His mind raced as he studied the faint lines etched into the wall around the doorway. They were not random. They curved and crossed in repeating patterns, almost like numbers. He traced the lines with his finger and felt a strange sense of recognition. "It's math," he said. His voice shook with excitement. "Not words. They wrote this in math. Look, these shapes repeat like equations." The others stared at him. Mira gave a short nod. "If it's math, then it can be translated. Keep working." Together they tried different signals, sending pulses of light from their tools against the surface. Each time the crystal responded faintly, as if listening but unsure. At last, Aaron adjusted the rhythm of the pulses to match the patterns carved into the wall. The crystal glowed brighter. The lines across the doorway lit up, flowing outward in waves of color. The desert around them shone as if dawn had returned, though the sun was gone. The crew shielded their eyes as the light grew until it was almost blinding. Then it faded. The door was still closed, but now it hummed softly, alive with a sound that vibrated in their bones. Mira looked at her team. Her voice was firm. "This is it. Tomorrow we go inside." They returned to the ship for the night, though none of them could truly sleep. Each time they closed their eyes, they saw the glowing doorway waiting for them in the desert. Each of them wondered the same thing. Who had built it? Why had they left it sealed for so long? And what would they find when they finally stepped through into the dark heart of the tomb? The world remained silent, the desert stretching endless around them. Only the faint hum of the crystal tomb broke the stillness. A voice from Millennia passed, whispering to the stars that someone had at last come to listen. The next morning, the desert sky was pale and cold. The crew of the Horizon stood again before the great crystal door, their breath showing faintly in the chill air. The glow of the doorway had not faded overnight. Instead, it pulsed gently, like a giant heart waiting to be awakened. Mira studied it in silence, then turned to her team. Her tone was steady but firm. "We go in carefully. Record everything. No one acts alone. If this place has survived for so many ages, it is not by chance." Aaron adjusted the small recorder strapped to his wrist. He still felt the weight of the discovery pressing on his mind. The images of the glowing walls had followed him through the night. He could not shake the thought that the door was not simply waiting but watching. Jalen carried the equipment forward. He set the scanner against the glowing crystal, then gave Mira a nod. "Same frequency as before should open it." Aaron hesitated, then said, "Let me try." Mira looked at him for a long moment, then gave a short nod. "Do it." Aaron pressed his fingers against the surface and tapped the pattern he had studied the day before. The rhythm of pulses echoed through the crystal. At first nothing happened. Then the lines carved into the doorway shone brighter. The hum grew louder until it filled the air around them. Slowly the door slid upward, leaving a wide arch glowing with white light. Beyond it stretched a corridor, tall and long, lined with smooth crystal walls that sparkled faintly as if stars were trapped inside them. A faint mist drifted across the floor. The crew exchanged silent glances. Mira stepped through first. The others followed, their boots clicking softly against the crystal floor. The air inside was cool and strangely clean, untouched by time. Their lights played across the walls, revealing carvings that told stories in images rather than words. Figures shaped like tall beings with sharp crowns raised their hands to the sky. Armies of shining warriors marched behind them. Strange ships flew between stars and whole worlds bent beneath their rule. Aaron stopped before one of the walls, staring at the figures. "This is history," he whispered. "A record of a people we have never known." Jalen gave a low whistle. "If half of this is true, they ruled entire systems." Mira touched the carving of a tall figure with rays of light carved around its head. "And here is their king, or their pharaoh." They moved deeper inside. The corridor led to a chamber shaped like a circle. In its center stood a massive crystal sarcophagus, clear and glowing faintly with inner light. The lid was smooth, but within they could see the figure of a being unlike any they had known. It was tall, even lying down, its body covered in armor-like plates that seemed carved from light itself. Its face was narrow, its eyes closed, and a great crown of crystal rose from its head. It looked both alien and royal, at once a warrior and a ruler. The crew stood frozen, staring at the figure. None of them spoke for a long time. The silence pressed on them, heavy and alive. At last, Mira said softly, "The crystal pharaoh." Aaron stepped closer, unable to stop himself. The light from the sarcophagus reflected in his eyes. He felt as if the figure inside was not dead but only sleeping. A strange energy stirred in the air, pulling at his thoughts. "This one has been here for thousands of years," he said. "Maybe longer. But it feels like he has been waiting." Jalen shook his head. "Waiting for what? For us?" The others said nothing. Mira walked around the sarcophagus, studying the walls of the chamber. More carvings stretched around the circle. They showed the pharaoh leading armies, lifting his hands to command stars themselves, then finally lying down within the crystal tomb. Rays of light surrounded him as though the very sun had sealed him away. "This was not burial," Mira said at last. "This was preservation." They set up their tools and scanned the chamber. Energy readings filled their devices, stronger than anything they had seen before. The sarcophagus pulsed with a steady rhythm, like a slow heartbeat. Aaron could not take his eyes away. He traced the patterns etched into the floor. They were the same mathematical designs as outside, but far more complex. He began to sketch them on his recorder. Slowly, he realized they were not only numbers, but instructions. "This is a code," he said. His voice shook with excitement. "It is telling us how to wake him." Mira turned sharply. "We are not waking anyone." "But look," Aaron insisted. "The patterns are not just decoration. They are sequences. Each one is linked to the energy pulses in the sarcophagus. It is like a lock, but also an invitation. They wanted someone to open it, someone who could understand." Jalen frowned. "And if waking him means we release something dangerous? He could be a conqueror. Look at these carvings. His people ruled through fear. Maybe this tomb was built to hold him, not honor him." The chamber grew colder. The humming of the sarcophagus deepened as though it listened to their words. Mira raised her hand. "Enough, we will not act in haste. We record, we study, and we return to the horizon. Tomorrow we decide if we attempt to go further." Reluctantly, Aaron stepped back, but his eyes never left the crystal figure. That night, back on the horizon, sleep did not come easily. The crew gathered in the common room, each lost in thought. The arguments repeated themselves in low voices. Jalen argued that no good could come from disturbing the Pharaoh. "Knowledge is one thing, but waking an ancient ruler is madness," he said. Aaron countered. "If his people are gone, then he is the last. He may hold knowledge no one else remembers. Maybe he is not an enemy, but a guide." Mira listened but said little. She stared out the window at the desert, the faint glow of the tomb shining in the distance like a fallen star. At last she spoke. "We came here to seek knowledge, but knowledge is never without risk. Tomorrow we test the patterns. If there is danger, we will stop. But we cannot turn away without knowing." The crew returned to their bunks, though rest was shallow and filled with uneasy dreams. Aaron lay awake, staring at the ceiling. In his mind, he saw the Pharaoh's face, calm and silent, waiting. He felt certain that the figure inside the crystal was aware of them, that their arrival was no accident. When dawn returned to the desert, the crew stepped once more into the tomb. The sarcophagus glowed brighter than before, as if it had drawn strength from their presence. The hum filled the chamber like a living voice. Aaron knelt on the floor and began tracing the patterns again, connecting them one by one. His recorder matched each sequence with a pulse of light. Slowly, the rhythm built, echoing through the chamber. The sarcophagus responded. The glow spread across its surface, brightening until the whole chamber shone. The figure inside stirred, a faint shift that made the crew step back in shock. The Pharaoh's eyes opened. They burned with pale fire, cold and ancient. The crystal lid of the sarcophagus cracked with a sound like thunder. Shards fell to the floor, glowing and fading into dust. The crystal Pharaoh rose slowly, towering above them. His gaze swept across the chamber, then settled on the humans. The crew stood frozen, breath caught in their throats. The Pharaoh raised his hand. His voice, deep and resonant, filled the chamber. "You are not of my people," he said. His words carried in strange tones, but their meaning reached their minds as clear as their own language. "Yet you have awakened me." "Tell me, why have you come?" The chamber fell into silence once more. Humanity stood face to face with a ruler frozen in light for millennia, and the weight of his judgment had only just begun. The chamber shook as the crystal Pharaoh rose fully from his sarcophagus. Shards of crystal still clung to his armor, glowing faintly before turning into dust. His tall form cast long shadows across the walls. His eyes, burning with pale light, studied the humans one by one. The crew stood still. Their hands trembled near their belts, where scanners and small tools hung. No one reached for a weapon, though the thought passed through every mind. It was Aaron who finally found his voice. His words were soft but clear. "We are explorers. We come from far beyond this world. We did not mean to disturb you. We only wish to understand." The Pharaoh tilted his head, the faint light from his crown scattering across the walls. His voice was deep, carrying the weight of ages. "You speak not in fear, yet your hearts tremble. Long has it been since I heard the sound of living minds. Tell me, strangers, do you carry the flame of knowledge or the hunger of conquest?" Mira stepped forward. Her tone was steady, though her chest tightened. "We seek knowledge, that is all." For a long moment the Pharaoh said nothing. Then he raised his hand. The floor of the chamber rippled with light. Patterns spread outward in circles, forming shapes that glowed with shifting symbols. "You speak of knowledge," the Pharaoh said, his voice echoing like a chorus. "Then you must prove it. For knowledge is more than words. It is wisdom, courage, and unity. If you fail, you will leave this place and never return. The walls around them shifted. The carvings faded and new doors opened, leading into dark passages. The air grew colder and the humming deepened until it pressed into their bones. Mira turned to her crew. "This is a trial," she said. "We stay together. No one separates." The Pharaoh lowered his hand. His eyes glowed brighter. "The first test awaits." The crew followed the passage as the doorway sealed behind them. They stepped into a long hall lined with mirrors of crystal. Each mirror reflected not only their images but also strange distortions. Aaron saw himself older, with lines of worry across his face. Jalen saw himself alone, tools broken in his hands. Mira saw herself standing above a field of ruins. "Do not trust what you see," Mira warned. As they walked, the reflections grew stronger. The mirrors whispered faint voices pulling at their thoughts. Aaron stopped, frozen by the sight of himself kneeling before the Pharaoh, begging for mercy. The image seemed so real he almost believed it, but Mira gripped his shoulder firmly. "It is not you," she said. "Keep walking." Together they pushed forward. The whispers grew louder, trying to break their focus. Yet when they reached the far end of the hall, the mirrors shattered all at once, falling into dust. A deep voice echoed through the air. "First you face the shadows of your own hearts. You did not yield. Step forward." The next chamber opened before them. It was vast and circular, with a floor of shifting tiles. Each tile glowed faintly, some bright, some dim. A great chasm stretched across the middle of the room. The only way across was the tiles, yet as they watched, some tiles fell into the chasm, leaving empty gaps. "This is a puzzle," Jalen said, scanning the patterns. "The tiles light up in a sequence. We need to follow the right path or fall." Mira nodded. "Work together. Watch the rhythm." They studied the floor carefully. Each tile brightened in a repeating pattern, like steps in a song. Jalen counted aloud, marking the safe ones. Mira tested the first step. It held. Slowly she moved forward, then motioned for the others. Step by step they crossed. Once Aaron slipped, landing on a dim tile. The floor shook and the tile began to sink. Jalen grabbed his arm and pulled him back just in time. Breathing hard, Aaron whispered, "Thank you." Jalen gave a quick nod. "Watch your feet. We move as one." At last they reached the far side. The chasm closed behind them and the tiles dissolved into light. The Pharaoh's voice filled the chamber again. "Second, you faced the path of wisdom. Alone you would have fallen, but together you endured. Step forward." The third chamber opened. This one was filled with statues of crystal warriors, each holding spears of light. The statues lined the walls in silence. At the far end stood a closed door. "This does not feel right," Mira said. As soon as they stepped inside, the statues stirred. Their eyes glowed and their weapons rose. "Move," Mira shouted. The statues advanced with heavy steps. The crew ducked between them, dodging the glowing spears. Aaron nearly stumbled, but Mira pulled him forward. Jalen swung a metal rod from his pack, striking one of the statues across the arm. It slowed, its glow dimming, but another took its place. "There are too many," Jalen said. Aaron's eyes darted across the room. He saw symbols carved into the floor. The same sequences from before. "The patterns," he shouted. "We need to trace them." He dropped to his knees and ran his hand along the glowing lines. The statues paused, their movements slowing. Mira and Jalen joined him, connecting the lines quickly. As the last sequence was traced, the statues froze, their eyes fading to dark. The door at the far end opened with a soft hum. "You faced the trial of courage," the Pharaoh's voice echoed. "You did not fight with force alone, but with mind and heart. Step forward." The crew, breathing hard, passed through the door. At last they entered a final chamber. In its center burned a great crystal flame suspended in the air. The light filled the room with warmth, chasing away the cold. Around the flame were 4 pedestals, each holding a crystal sphere. The Pharaoh's voice was softer now, yet heavy with meaning. "The last trial is the trial of choice. 4 paths lie before you. One brings knowledge to your people. One awakens power. One offers peace. One brings nothing. Choose wisely, for the choice cannot be undone." The crew gathered around the flame. The crystal spheres pulsed faintly, each one calling in its own way. Jalen's eyes locked on the sphere of power. "If we take this, we could protect humanity from every threat. No enemy would stand against us." Aaron shook his head. "Power without wisdom is dangerous. Knowledge can guide us, help us grow beyond what we are." He pointed to the sphere of knowledge. Mira looked at both, then at the sphere of peace. And yet peace is the greatest gift. But what kind of peace is this? One forced by silence or one earned through trust? The fourth sphere glowed faintly, offering nothing. Yet it seemed honest in its emptiness. The crew argued in hushed voices, each torn by the weight of the decision. At last Mira raised her hand. We came seeking knowledge. That was our purpose. Power tempts us, peace misleads us, emptiness leaves us blind. We choose knowledge. Together they placed their hands on the sphere of knowledge. The crystal flame flared brightly, filling the chamber with a wave of light. Symbols flowed across the walls, forming rivers of data too vast to hold. The crew felt it pour into their recorders, streams of history, science, and memory. The Pharaoh appeared before them, tall and radiant. His eyes burned brighter than before. You have faced fear, wisdom, courage, and choice, he said. You did not falter. You chose not the path of conquest nor the path of silence, but the path of understanding. Few have done so. He raised his hand and the crystal flame dimmed. Your trials are complete, but your journey is not. What you carry now will test not only you but all your people. Use it wisely or it will consume you. The chamber grew still. The doors behind them opened, leading back toward the sarcophagus room. The crew walked in silence, their minds heavy with what they had gained. Outside the desert waited, endless and quiet. But within their hands, humanity now carried a legacy that had slept in light for millennia. And the eyes of the crystal Pharaoh followed them, unreadable and watchful, as though their true trial had only just begun. The crew returned to the sarcophagus chamber with heavy steps. The trial still echoed in their minds, each challenge carved deep into their thoughts. Their recorders now held countless streams of knowledge, yet none of them felt lighter. If anything, the weight of their choice pressed heavier on their shoulders. The crystal Pharaoh stood waiting. He had not moved since they left, yet it seemed as though he had been watching every step. His eyes glowed steadily, cold and ancient, as the crew approached. Mira led them forward. Her voice was steady, but her heart beat fast. We have completed your trials. We chose knowledge as you demanded. The Pharaoh's voice filled the chamber, slow and measured. You chose with wisdom, though temptation pulled at you. Yet knowledge alone is not the end. It is a beginning. Now comes the question that decides more than your fate. The walls around them glowed with shifting images. They saw whole galaxies filled with stars and countless worlds. Then those same worlds burned, fleets clashing, cities falling, rulers rising and falling in endless cycles. My people, the Pharaoh said, once believed themselves eternal. They bent empires beneath their crowns. They thought power was their birthright. They built monuments that touched the stars. Yet in the end, they turned upon themselves. Their knowledge became a weapon, their strength a chain. And so they fell, leaving me to sleep while time swallowed their glory. Aaron watched the images with wide eyes. The destruction was terrible, yet behind it he saw something more. The Pharaoh's people had been brilliant, capable of wonders beyond imagining. And still they had destroyed themselves. Jalen muttered, So this whole tomb is not just a monument. It is a warning. The Pharaoh turned his gaze upon him. A warning, yes, and a mirror. For I see the spark of my own people in you. You burn with ambition. You hunger for the stars. You build, you expand, you fight. Tell me, what makes you different? Why should humanity not follow the same path to the same end? The chamber grew cold. The crew stood in silence, each feeling the weight of the question. Mira met the Pharaoh's eyes. We are not perfect, she said at last. We argue. We struggle. But we learn. We do not only build weapons. We build stories, families, and bonds that last beyond war. We do not stand because we are flawless. We stand because we rise again after we fall. The Pharaoh studied her. His gaze was unreadable. Words are easy. Yet I have seen words crumble before hunger and fear. Aaron stepped forward. His voice shook, but his eyes shone with quiet fire. Maybe we will fail one day. Maybe we will fall like your people did. But until that day comes, we will not stop trying. We are not bound by crowns or chains. We are bound by hope. That is what makes us different. The Pharaoh's eyes glimmered faintly. Hope. A fragile flame. Fragile, Aaron agreed. But it spreads. You can crush one flame, but not all of them. Humanity survives because of that, and because of each other. The chamber was silent for a long time. The only sound was the faint hum of the crystal walls. At last, the Pharaoh lifted his hand. Light swirled around his palm. forming images of humans standing beneath stars, building ships, crossing voids, raising children on distant worlds. The pictures did not show perfection, but they showed persistence. "You speak boldly," he said, "and in your voices I hear something I did not expect. Not arrogance, not conquest, but fire." He lowered his hand and the light dissolved. His tone grew heavier, like stone grinding against stone. "But fire burns as well as warms. If your kind loses its way, it will consume the stars themselves. You stand at the edge of a blade. Do not forget it." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They knew his words were not only a judgment but also a warning. Suddenly the walls shifted again. The chamber reshaped, revealing a new vision. They saw countless crystalline vaults hidden deep beneath the desert, each one glowing faintly. Within them lay rows of beings like the Pharaoh, silent and sealed in crystal. Aaron gasped. "There are more, thousands," the Pharaoh's voice deepened. "Yes, my people rest here, sleeping in light. I alone remain awake. I must decide if they are to remain in silence or to rise once more." The crew felt the weight of his words. If the Pharaoh chose to awaken his people, the galaxy might once again know their power. If he kept them sealed, then his race would remain a memory, their knowledge preserved but their reign ended forever. He turned his gaze back to the humans. "You stand as witnesses. Your choice of knowledge has unlocked their fate. Should they rise again, they may guide you or rule you. Should they remain, their wisdom will be yours alone to carry." "What do you say, strangers of the horizon?" Mira's breath caught. "You ask us to choose for your people?" "No," the Pharaoh said. "I ask you to show me the heart of your kind. For in your answer I will see what humanity truly is." The crew gathered in a circle, speaking in hushed voices. Jalen argued that awakening the race was dangerous. If they ruled once through fear, they will do it again. "We cannot release that into the galaxy." Aaron shook his head. "But if they remain sealed, their wisdom dies with them. We cannot hold the legacy of a whole people in our hands and choose silence. Knowledge is meant to be shared." Mira listened, torn between them. She saw truth in both arguments. At last she raised her head. Her voice was steady. "Pharaoh, we cannot decide for your people. That right is not ours. But we can tell you this: if you wake them, we will not bow. We will stand beside them, not beneath them. If you keep them sealed, we will carry their memory and learn from it. Either way, we choose to walk as equals, not as subjects." The Pharaoh's eyes blazed with sudden fire. For a moment the chamber trembled, as though the tomb itself shook with his power. Then slowly the light dimmed and he lowered his gaze. "You answer not as rulers, but as free minds," he said. "That is what makes you different." He stepped closer, towering above them. His crown gleamed with white fire. "Hear me then. I will not awaken my people. Their time has passed. Their legacy now belongs to you. Carry it well, or it will be your undoing. As for me, I shall remain neither ruler nor ghost, but a guardian. Should humanity prove true, perhaps one day I will stand beside you. But until then, the choice is made." The images of the crystalline vaults faded. The chamber grew still once more. The Pharaoh's form began to shine more brightly, his edges dissolving into beams of light. Aaron called out, his voice trembling. "Will we see you again?" The Pharaoh's voice echoed faintly, already fading. "When humanity's fire burns brighter than its fear, then you shall see me once more." His figure dissolved into light, which rose like mist and vanished into the ceiling of the tomb. The crew stood in silence. The sarcophagus was empty now, only fragments of crystal left behind. The chamber felt vast and lonely, but not lifeless. Mira closed her eyes, breathing slowly. "We carry more than knowledge now. We carry his judgment. And his trust." Aaron nodded, though his chest felt heavy. "And his warning." Jalen ran a hand across his face. "We need to leave. We have enough to study for a lifetime." Together they turned toward the passage that led back to the desert. The glowing walls lit their way as if guiding them out. The tomb no longer felt threatening. Instead, it felt like a place of memory, a story entrusted to them. When they stepped once more into the desert air, the sun was setting. The tomb behind them glowed faintly, a beacon against the darkening sky. Mira looked back once, her eyes thoughtful. "The Pharaoh has judged us. Now it is our turn to prove him right, or wrong." The wind whispered across the dunes, carrying the last rays of sunlight. The horizon waited nearby, its engines ready. The crew climbed aboard, carrying with them not only the data of a lost empire, but also the weight of a promise made beneath the watchful eyes of the crystal Pharaoh. And far below the sands, The silent vaults of his people remained sealed, frozen in light for millennia, waiting for an age that might never come. The horizon lifted off the desert world as the last light of the sun vanished beyond the horizon. The glow of the tomb faded slowly behind them, leaving the crew in the quiet darkness of space. Each of them stared at the displays, their minds still filled with the trials, the Pharaoh's judgment, and the streams of knowledge now stored in their recorders. Aaron sat in his seat, tracing the patterns of the data across the screen. His fingers moved automatically, almost as if he could feel the rhythm of the ancient mathematics in his bones. "It is incredible," he whispered. "All this knowledge, all this history. It is more than we could have imagined." Jalen leaned back, exhaustion written across his face. "It's not just knowledge," he said. "It's a warning. His people fell because they were brilliant but arrogant. We can't let that happen to us." Mira, sitting at the front, piloted the horizon with steady hands. Her eyes were fixed on the dark void ahead, but her mind traced the lessons they had learned. "He did not awaken his people," she said quietly. "He trusted us to carry their legacy. That trust is heavier than any treasure we could have taken." The crew went silent. Each understood the weight of what they now carried. This was not merely a scientific discovery or a historical record. It was a responsibility. A single mistake could turn the knowledge of a lost empire into destruction. Aaron finally spoke. "Do you think humanity is ready?" His voice was hesitant. "We are not perfect and we will make mistakes. But we survived the trials and we learned. That is something." Mira nodded. "We have a choice every day, Aaron. Knowledge alone does not make us strong. How we use it does. That is the difference the Pharaoh saw. That is what separates us from those who came before." Jalen shook his head. "I still can't believe we saw the Pharaoh, standing there alive and judging us. I keep thinking it was a dream." Aaron smiled faintly. "It was no dream. Every choice, every trial, every word we spoke, it mattered. He gave us a chance to prove ourselves." The horizon moved silently through space. Ahead lay their home system, a small group of planets orbiting a bright star. But now the stars seemed different. Each one held possibilities, not just light. Each planet could hold a future shaped by the knowledge they carried. Mira spoke first after a long pause. "We need to be careful. We cannot rush this. We have to study the data, understand it fully, and use it wisely. If we do, we can prevent the mistakes of the Pharaoh's people from repeating." Aaron nodded. "We can use their science to build, not destroy. Their history to guide, not dominate. But we must remember the warning. Knowledge without judgment is dangerous." Jalen finally looked out the window at the stars. "I never thought I would say this, but I am glad the Pharaoh tested us. Not just with puzzles and challenges, but with his judgment. He forced us to see ourselves clearly." Mira's voice softened. "We are only beginning, Jalen. Humanity has always faced challenges, but this is something larger. We now carry the memory of an entire civilization. It is both a gift and a burden." The horizon approached the outer edge of their system. Aaron turned back to the consoles, watching the streams of data flow. He noticed patterns in the light, sequences of logic and math that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. "It feels alive," he said. "Not like a machine, not like a program. Like the Pharaoh left a part of himself in this knowledge." Jalen frowned. Maybe he did. Or maybe it is his way of reminding us that the choices we make are as important as the knowledge itself. Mira allowed a small smile. "Either way, we have work to do. We cannot simply bring this back and leave it untouched. Humanity depends on how we act from this moment onward." The crew spent the next hours reviewing the data. Each scroll, holographic chart, and crystal recording revealed insights into engineering, medicine, astronomy, and philosophy. But deeper than the technology was a lesson in leadership, humility, and cooperation. They saw how the Pharaoh's people rose through brilliance but fell through arrogance. They understood the true purpose of the Pharaoh's trials, not to punish or test their strength, but to measure the depth of their character. Aaron traced another sequence, his mind racing. "We could replicate some of their starships, design new engines, even improve life on planets we have never reached. But we must do it carefully. Every action can have consequences far beyond our understanding." Jalen nodded. "And we must remember knowledge without wisdom is a weapon. We cannot let it fall into the wrong hands or even misuse it ourselves." Mira leaned back in her chair. "We are the custodians now. Not rulers, not conquerors, custodians. That is our role. That is what the Pharaoh trusted us with." The horizon drifted toward the inner planets. The crew gazed out at the blue and green worlds below, marveling at the beauty and fragility of life. They understood now why the Pharaoh had chosen not to awaken his people. His people were gone, yet their legacy could still shape the future if it fell into the right hands. Aaron broke the silence. "Do you think the Pharaoh will ever truly leave us?" Mira's eyes softened. "Perhaps not. His presence may remain in the knowledge, in the trials, in the choices he forced upon us. That is enough. We carry his wisdom, and in doing so, we carry a part of him too." Jalen shook his head in quiet wonder. "I never thought humanity would meet a being like him. To face judgment and survive. It feels like a dream, but the lessons are real." The crew spent days reviewing and organizing the knowledge. Each member focused on a different field. Aaron on mathematics and energy systems, Jalen on technology and engineering, and Mira on leadership, strategy, and philosophy. They realized that humanity could grow beyond what they had ever imagined, but only if they remembered the Pharaoh's lessons. One evening, as the horizon orbited the largest planet, Mira gathered the crew. "We have done well," she said. "But this is only the beginning. The Pharaoh's knowledge is a tool, not an answer. We must take it to humanity carefully, guiding without ruling. We must show others what we have learned and encourage them to act with the same courage and wisdom that the Pharaoh saw in us." Aaron's eyes glowed with determination. "We have the chance to shape the future. Not through force, but through understanding. That is what makes humanity unique." "That is our flame," Jalen smiled faintly. "A flame that burns because we keep choosing to rise, no matter the odds." Mira nodded. "Exactly. That is why we were chosen. Not because we are perfect, but because we are human. And humanity has always survived through hope, determination, and connection." The horizon descended toward the planet's surface. Cities sprawled across continents, glowing faintly in the evening light. Humanity was already at work building, learning, and exploring.
Yet they had no idea of the treasure waiting for them in the hands of this small crew. The crew prepared to transmit the knowledge carefully,
Piece by piece, ensuring it would not overwhelm those who received it. They chose to teach first, then provide tools for growth. The Pharaoh's warning was clear. Knowledge alone could destroy, but knowledge paired with wisdom could create wonders beyond imagination. As the first transmissions began, Aaron looked out the viewport. "The Pharaoh trusted us. Now it is up to us to honor that trust, to build, to guide, and to inspire. We will not fail him." Jalen nodded. "And even if we stumble, we will rise again. That is what he saw in us, and that is what makes humanity strong." Mira's gaze returned to the stars. "The journey will be long, and the challenge is greater than anything we faced in the tomb. But the flame he saw in us, the human flame, will light the way. We carry the past to guide the future, and we will make it count." The crew sat quietly, watching the glowing cities below. In the dark sky above, distant stars shone like promises of adventure and discovery. And somewhere far across the universe, the crystal Pharaoh remained, silent and watchful, knowing that the flame of humanity had been lit and could never be extinguished. For the first time since the tomb had been opened, the galaxy felt a little lighter, a little warmer, as humans carried forward a legacy frozen in light for millennia. And with every choice, every action, every step into the unknown, the human flame burned brighter, guiding them not only through space but through the possibilities of their own destiny.